All right, Congressman, let's get to the torture report. I want to ask you about some comments that you made. You said that what happened wasn't torture, despite the Senate intelligence report, which found that it was. You said, quote, "We're not talking about anyone being burned or stabbed or cut or anything like that. We're talking about people being made to stand in awkward positions."
All right, the attack, of course, by the mainstream leftist media, in that case, Kristen Welker of NBC News on MSNBC. What do you mean it wasn't torture? The report said it was torture. Who cares what the report said? Who cares what the report said? But, you know, don't get the facts in the way of the left-wing media, because they do not care. Here's the follow-up.
And yet, Congressman, some of the enhanced techniques that the report found included extended waterboarding, sleep deprivation, rectal rehydration, slapping, stress positions. How is that not torture, Congressman?
Well, the Justice Department clearly said it was not torture. People like General Hayden, who I have the greatest respect for, they made sure that whatever was done to not violate the torture statute, it could have been rough treatment, but there's a difference between that and torture.
Yeah. And, you know, torture is a very subjective term. So first of all, what needs to be said every time the media mentions this report is quote-unquote torture, or so-called torture, or torture as defined by the Democrats on the Senate Intelligence Committee. You can't just say it's torture, because that's a fallacy, total fallacy. Now, Andrea Mitchell at the press conference yesterday with CIA Director Brennan took the opportunity to ask a question and go through every allegation of what was done to the prisoners. Get a load of this.
If there is some unknowable value to these techniques, to waterboarding, near drowning, slamming people against the wall, hanging them in stress positions, confining them in small boxes or coffins, threatening them with drills, waving guns around their head as they are blindfolded, what or which of these techniques could be used if, as the Director of Central Intelligence, you and another president or this president were faced with an imminent threat?
Yeah, well, I'd say all of them and more. How do you like that, Andrea? Ooh. Yeah, I could just see her reaction. She listed 8 of the allegations from the report in her question. Here's more.
Could there be another covert finding and rulings and advice from the Attorney General that would lead you and your successors to say we should do this because there could be some value to prevent an attack on America?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Andrea, if you have a grandkid, God forbid, and that grandkid goes to school, and we find out that in that town, within the next month or two, there's a plan to blow up one of those schools. Well, you could keep your grandkid home from school for 2 months, but we happen to have a terrorist in custody who we believe knows which school and when. What would you suggest we do with them, Andrea? Take them to dinner? Unbelievable, these people. They really are. Then there's The View.
In the months and days after 9/11, the debate in this country and the debate in the White House where I worked wasn't whether or not we'd get hit, it was which city was next. So my family's from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I have some friends here from there now. I told my mom and dad, stop driving over the bridges. You've got family in the Bay Area. I said, stay off those bridges.
Of course, Nicole Wallace was with the Bush administration at the time, and she also talked about how, you know, her father talks about how he was so afraid for his daughter's safety that day. Anyway, here comes Rosie from the left, way from the left. So far off the left, she climbed up the cliff to get back. And get a load of this.
But to the men and women who were simply doing their jobs, and for them this was traumatic. I don't think anyone is defending brutal tactics. That's why they don't happen anymore. But I've never been more proud to defend the people who walk the line for this country and this city, and the city in which I work, the city where my mom and dad lived.
I'm sorry that you feel the ends justifies the means. But I don't think Machiavellian techniques is really the foundation of democracy in America.
In America. I don't know why you didn't hear it, but you didn't. She doesn't think the ends justifies the means. Another hypocrite. If it was your kids, Rosie, and their school, or your relative, and their safety, what would you say? Don't stick the guy's head underwater? Give me a break, you two-bit hypocrites. They're all hypocrites on the Steve Malzberg Show.